Well, hello. This is Devlog for game I'm creating or game engine. This week it was mostly about the engine and creating devlogs and how I do that. Was kind of what I worked on mostly. So it wasn't really so much the game as the bits and pieces around the game. So the first part of the week, I created some software that you're looking at right now for doing devlogs in video format for like uploading them to YouTube and so forth. So this is throughout the week, or as I'm developing, I kind of write notes and take little screenshots and so forth of what I'm doing. I post those a lot of the time to Twitter and Instagram and so forth. And it just makes also just very good assets for doing the devlog at the end of the week, what you're looking at right now. So I create some software that essentially goes through all of those assets, let's call them, and allows me to kind of bundle them up, and so I can present them here at the end of the week. If you're not following all of what I'm doing with the microscope. So that was the first part of the week. Looks like the first couple of days of the week. That's what I focused on, and I actually did a YouTube video demonstrating the software. If you want to take a look at that, you can look in my YouTube channel and find that. So let's get on to the next thing, which was essentially fixing the broken stuff from the 2.5D to 3D conversion, or the 2D to 3D conversion of doing 2.5D. So one of the things I discovered is that my pathfinding and all that sort of stuff was just really messed up. So the problem turns out to be, well, there's a lot of problems, but a lot of it was like the flipped Y coordinate system of the canvas versus the right hand rule coordinate system of 3JS, and so it was just kind of a pain to work through all that. So that's kind of what I did early on. Uh, and as part of working through that pain, I decided I really need a good visualization uh, of my grid system, or my various grid systems. And so I just spent some time working out my debug grid, let's call it, system. And so this is just me showing that off, how I can produce a grid and look at all the indexes and so forth. And so that was time well spent, I think. Uh, so another broken item during my conversion was the Y sorting. So that was working when I was just doing straight Canvas 2D. But as I converted it to 3D, I messed it up, or it was working at one point, and then it kind of stopped working. So it's essentially just bug fixing, right? It's really, this is kind of one of the lessons learned here, is that the project has grown so large that I'm forgetting about things that I'm doing as I'm fixing other things. And so what this turned out to be, at the end of the day here, let's see, is here you can see that the little flashing numbers are the indexes, right? So you can see, oh, hey, this is indexed correctly. So the little pink cube is indexed 1, the little orange cube is indexed 4. So the 4 should be, on top of the pink one, right? Because that's just how the white. So the white sorting is working correctly. It's just it's not being visualized correctly. And so it's sort of like, well, why is that? And remember that I'm as I made the move to 3JS, I'm using the actual Z uh, coordinate to actually figure out the draw order of the stuff. And so let's see if no, this one's the one that's working, I think. So I eventually figured out what the problem is here, and what the problem turned out to be was the actual depth of the cube, which you can't see in this orthographic perspective, right? Uh, but the actual depth of the cube is there, and because I'm drawing these as boxes, not just straight planes. And I was using a too big a Z depth, or let's call it the depth of the box. I was using too big a depth, and so uh, the 3GS sort of draw order mechanics of that kind of got in my way in an unexpected way. And so the fix to this just turned out to be to make that Z coordinate depth of the box just real small, so that they actually layer on top of each other nicely. So that was kind of a painful lesson learned, I guess. Let's see here. Next up, performance, performance, performance. So the problem here, I'll just turn the notes off here so you can see the screen here. The problem here is I'm getting 24 frames per second, or 22 frames per second, right? Which, that's why I went to 3D World in the first place, is better performance. But you can abuse the 3D engine as well, and that's what I'm doing at this point. Is I'm trying to draw like around 4,000, 4,500 entities in my world. These are all separate geometries, separate textures, and so forth. I'm not doing any tricks like instancing or anything like that. And it just turns out that you can't do that and get performance, not out of the box anyway. And so I'm going to have to look to actually optimizing this further. The probably what's going to be good enough, I hope, is that the terrain that you're seeing right now is each individual tile is actually is a separate mesh, and I think that's just there's no good reason for doing that other than it was just simple. So I'll look into consolidating that into a larger mesh and just paint one large mesh for a chunk of the terrain. So that'll probably be what I do next week sometime. All right, next up. I just sort of got bored of that, and I kind of wanted something that had some sort of gameplay element to it instead of just messing around with performance. And so I decided I wanted I have been moving the player around with WASD keyboard commands, and I want kind of a player follows the mouse sort of system, or at least play with it. I don't know if maybe I'll do both. Who knows? But the first part of that is to actually pick um, a coordinate from the in the 3D space. So essentially, with your mouse, click on the canvas and then have that translated into what the 3D coordinates are. Actually, it's just the X and Y. Um, there's lots of ways of doing this. I'm doing a raycast mechanism, and I could probably just do it off the straight canvas coordinates, but I don't know, for whatever reason I decided to do a raycast. And one of the things I discovered is that when you use the orthographic camera in 3GS, when you do a raycast, it flips the Y, and so you have to flip the Y when you do that. And so that was just sort of this is a continual lesson I'm learning, is that flipping the Y is just that's how you solve all problems. So that was kind of a fun one to debug and figure out. Next up, once you have the ability to click on the screen and get a coordinate, you can actually do pathfinding and so forth. So this is me kind of showing off that I more or less got it all working, where the player follows the mouse movement. I'm actually doing I'm generating an A-star path based off of grid that I'm generating from the player position. So there's a radius, let's call it a search radius, from the center of the player that I'm using. There's no particular reason to center the search grid on the player. It just sort of uh, I, I did it because I did it, I guess. So the the thing here is, again, I've already kind of solved this problem once when I was in Canvas 2D, but the problem was, translating the coordinates from this 2.5 dimension, those two-dimensional coordinate system to the flipped Y 3GS coordinate system. And again, I kind of made it a little bit more difficult on myself because I decided that I needed to do kind of relative grid coordinates, where I was doing absolute grid because I was using the actual canvas as a sort of implicit grid. Just a camera view of the canvas. But since it gets more complicated in 3D, that's really the reason why I decided to center the grid on the player, because I'm going to have the ability to center the search grid on whatever entity is trying to do the search. So anyway, I got it all working. It was a lot of translation of from one coordinate system, from the mouse event coordinate system to the to the canvas, to the camera, to the all back and forth and so forth. But anyway, I got it all done, and it's all working. So this week was sort of it was a thing. It was kind of a slog, to be perfectly honest. It was because I wasn't really doing. I didn't really advance the game, right? It felt like I was just bug fixing all week, and that was sort of a motivational killer in some sense, right? Like you're resolving old problems. It's good in that this is sort of a practice, right? So now I know how to. The more times you solve a problem, the better you kind of learn and understand that problem. So I don't consider it like time wasted in any sense or anything like that. But it was just finding the motivation was a little bit of a struggle this week in trying to get that done. But I think now that I'm in a good spot where I fixed a lot of the a lot of the bugs. I can't say I'm 100% back to where I was, but I'm uh, I'm in a better place than I was last week. I'll say I was to some degree I was a little bit happier last week because I was ignorant of all the problems that I was facing. But that's just life in some sense. Anyway, I don't want to get this too long. Looks like this is going to be about a 13, 14-minute devlog, so that's pretty good. I think that's a good time for it. Anyway, if you have any questions or anything, just shout out at me. I'm going to try to continue doing this YouTube stuff and the Instagram stuff and the Twitter stuff and the Facebook stuff and all the social stuff. We'll just see how it goes. Anyway, catch you guys later.